Okay, so tonight we're going to make a lid for an oil collection drum that I'm going to put at a restaurant. This happens to be a closed head drum, so we're going to have to cut this sucker right open. I've traced out for a lid that's going on top here, and we're going to cut that out. Then we're going to build essentially a square box about a couple inches high on the top here, with a lid that opens up, and then we're going to put a whole bunch of drill holes through here, and that'll essentially be a French fry filter, and nobody will be able to stick a hose in there and suck out our oil because this lid's going to get locked down to the barrel. And we're going to go step by step, and I'll show you how to make this. You can buy one of these that looks exactly like this at Utah Biodiesel Supply. That you can buy made out of steel at Utah Biodiesel Supply. I decided to make my own just because I had the materials lying around. I've got the welder and all the rest of it, so this is going to cost me a lot less than buying their lid for 200 bucks. But they do offer a really good quality lid, and if you can't make it yourself, probably a good idea to buy one of those. Use the jigsaw with a new blade, and we're going to cut this circle out. So first things first, just make sure you got some kind of protection for your skin, some protection for your eyes, and some protection for your ears, because cutting aluminum can be pretty freaking loud, and you're going to go deaf when you get old if you don't wear something in your ears. So after a bit of work, we've got our top piece cut out. I'll give you a little tip. You can use any kind of a lube oil and just put a few dribbles of oil on both sides of that blade, and it'll run a lot smoother through thick aluminum instead of bouncing all around, which is a real pain in the neck. So one little tip for you there. Okay, so now we're going to have an opening lid on the top of this, so we're probably going to use this rectangular piece here as our lid, but we're going to have to build up an edge about, well, at least an inch high, that's going to go in the same size as that lid, and the lid is actually going to fit right over there, so when it rains, the rainwater is not going to run into the barrel at all. So we're probably going to build the sides first, so I'm going to have to cut some strips along here, and then we're going to cut them to length, and we're going to set them down, and we're going to see how it models out, and tack weld that down and go from there. So now we're going to cut strips that we're going to bend that go around this lid so that it fits right over like a cup over top of this barrel. We're going to have to do at least 3 of these strips here. Strip number 2. Strip number 3. Alright, so now we got 3 of these strips 28 inches long, and they're 2 inches wide. This is going to be bent around the bottom as our lid sides. So we got 3 of these 28 inches each. We need 73 inches, and it's just under 3 of these pieces, so we got enough of this. Now we're going to have to cut 2 strips that are going to be our lid edge. So it's going to be 1.75 inches all the way around this lid, so that when you open and close this lid, when the rain hits the lid, it's just going to run down the side, and it's not going to go into the barrel. So we got to make 2 strips, which is basically 2 side pieces, and then 2 end pieces for this. And those are 1 3/4 inches thick, and then we're doing a 1.5 inch thick strip for the rest of the stuff that we need. So I ended up cutting a little bit more material than I wanted to. We've got 1 1/4 inches, so we're going to do a 1 1/4 inch strip here, and then cut a couple strips out of the remaining leftovers, and that will be our lid edge. Okay, so this is going to be our oil pour in tray hole. The lid is going to hinge on this whole thing, and we're going to drill a whole bunch of 1/2 inch holes in here for the oil to drain through. So they're going to take their bucket and they're going to pour the oil in here after they flip the lid open. When they're done, they're going to close the lid, and the lid's going to keep all the rainwater out of there. So we're just going to get a clamp and hold that together and start some welding. Okay, now we got our basic box welded up here. We're gonna drill a hole in the back here and in the back over there, and this is gonna get welded down to the plate, and our hinge is gonna be on the back. From side to side is gonna be a hinge for that lid that we're putting on. And so we'll get this welded down now. We're just gonna run a bead all the way along around the outside. And we don't want to warp this thing too much, so we're just going to do an inch here, an inch there, an inch there, an inch there, and then we're going to seam weld it after. And we don't want to warp this bottom plate too much either, so we'll just take it easy with the heat and not apply too much heat as we go. So I threw a car battery and the top plate on there just to hold it down all square while we weld it up here. Lots of different ways you can do this. That ground. I got up the power, it's not enough power. It's getting too cold on the plate there. Try that again with a bit more juice. 145 instead of 125 amps. the other side. Okay, so we got our valley there welded in except for the back. Still have to weld the back in here, but you're kind of starting to get the picture of how this is going to look compared to the one from the Utah Biodiesel Supply website. So as usual, I was trying to rush it a bit and pull the whole bead on the back here, and as you can see, it's not exactly straight anymore. That's warping due to heat. So there's a lesson for you. Don't pull a whole bead. Go a little bit here, a little bit there, then go to the other side, and then finish, come back to that side. Bloody hell. So now I'm welding the sides of the lid onto the lid here. Sometimes you have to get a little creative on how you clamp it so that you can get the welding done. Well, I must be lucky or something. It's more or less straightened out. It's got a bit of a warp to it, but in any case, here's the plan for locking this thing. You see that rod I got here? Well, I'm gonna basically drill a hole right here somewhere through the barrel and through the side, and same thing here somewhere, and I'm gonna cut off about that much rod and I'm gonna shove it in the hole and weld the end of the rod here. Same thing here, I'm gonna stuff the rod in, weld the end of the rod. So there basically are gonna be two pins that go into the side of the barrel, and on this side here I'm going to drill another hole right there and a hole right here and two holes in this piece, and this piece is going to be bolted in there into the side of the barrel. I still got to cut part of this off, but that's going to be bolted right in there, and the bolt will be accessible from the outside, but from the inside it's got a nylock washer on there, nylock nut, pardon me, so that there's no way you're gonna pull that off. So I'll have a padlock going through the top here through another hole in the top, so that way you cannot lift the lid of the drum off to steal my oil. On the top here, that'll be opening up to anybody, but it's just small drilled holes where the oil is gonna fill in, so there won't be any theft issue there because the holes are too small to throw a hose in there, a suction hose in. So here's our semi-finished barrel lid. I've welded in the hinge on the back, so it opens up like that. I still have to drill all the little holes in here. I'll put some lube on there later, but I'm going to paint this whole thing. I had to make a bigger piece for the lock here that'll bolt to the side of the barrel. So I used the old one right here, which is double thick, and I'll put a hole through there for a chain that goes to the building to keep my lid and drum where it's supposed to be, so nobody walks off with it, because that was a few hours of labor in this sucker. Because I don't have a plasma cutter, I'm just using a TIG torch at 200 amps to cut the lid off. Cooking hot, cut the lid off, and now we just got to drill the holes in the lid and go to paint. So there's the lock. Okay, so the lid's pretty much complete. We've got our lock holes right here. Just push down on there and put a padlock through. We've got the holes drilled and chamfered. We've got a padlock that we can put a chain to the wall to keep our barrel in place. And we're just going to acetone it and primer and paint. Okay guys, so wear your mask when you're spray painting. There's the primer coat. And we're going to put the green on in a bit. There it is. Ready for deployment.